In this video, we're going to go over how you can teach your puppy the retreat or back up command. Now, I'm going to be using my buddy Maxwell here because he's the closest dog that I have to a puppy-sized dog. Now, Max knows this a little bit, but he's not super great at it, so it's a great way for you to see a dog learning. Now, we're going to use operant conditioning for this, and we're going to use a clicker for one of the techniques. And if you haven't already primed the clicker, I'd like you to go ahead and go to this link right here, and that'll give you an opportunity to watch a video on how you can prime the clicker. You need to prime the clicker before you start doing this technique, otherwise the dog's going to be a little bit confused as to why. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need to get yourself a bunch of high-value training treats. You're going to need to have a clicker like this. This is a teardrop clicker. You can get these on Amazon, about 4 of them for about $5 or $7. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need to create a situation or a location where the dog has a motivation to go forward as well as has a motivation to back up. So what I've done is I've moved this little cabinet away from the wall and I've created a bit of a channel. Now we want the channel to be narrow enough where the dog cannot go in there and do a U-turn, turn around and come back. We want the dog to walk in and have no choice but to back up. And that's how we're going to start shaping the retreat command. So when you're doing this, if there's a couple different locations that we're going to show you. So if you don't have a dresser or something like this, then you could use something like a portion next to your couch where you can there's a little space between your couch and the wall, or your couch and a cabinet. And when the dog goes in and out of there, you can use that. And I'll have some footage showing you how to do that. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get the dog used to going into the channel. A lot of dogs, if the dog won't go into the channel, sometimes it's too long of a channel. This one is about 5 feet long, so you might just use like a cardboard box that's against the wall, just so you create a smaller area. Now, if your dog won't go all the way into it, you're just going to kind of breadcrumb. So right now, this is the area we're going to use. The next step is you're going to need to come up with your command word. I like saying the word retreat. You can say reverse, back up, whatever you want to use. Use one-word commands are best. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show Max that I have this treat. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this treat back here into this little channel that I've created that's not wide enough for him to turn around. When he gets the treat, I'm not going to click. I'm going to wait for him to take a step backwards. His first step back, I'm going to click, and then once he gets out and clears this, I'm going to give him the treat, and then I'm going to mark and say the command word. So that the process is you throw the treat, the dog goes in there to get it. When he licks it up, we're not doing anything, we're waiting. When he takes his first step backwards, we click for that first step. Then when he clears it and comes out here, then we give him the treat and we say the word. All right, let's see it, Maxwell. Retreat. Now I've got a little, because this cabinet has something underneath, I've got a mirror here and it almost fell. That's why you saw him get a little bit squirrely in that footage. All right, so I'm going to switch this hand, and so we can do a couple of these reps so you can watch it. So I throw it back there. Retreat. Retreat. So first what we're going to do is we're going to click for his first step backwards. Max has already done this a couple times, so now I'm going to do it on his second step backwards. 1, 2, click, retreat. So eventually you want to get to the point where he'll take 4 steps backwards before you click, and then you give him the treat. We'd like to get to about 4 or 5 steps backwards before you click. That way, if he's in your way, 4 or 5 steps is a reasonable distance for him to get out of your way. Okay, so if you don't have a channel or stuff you can move around, you can use your environment. So I noticed right here, I have this little tunnel where Max can go in and out of the tunnel. So again, I'm going to use the same technique. I got the fork, I've got treats, I've got the clicker. So I'm going to toss one back there. Max goes and gets it. Retreat. Retreat. So if you have a little space like this where you can, a place where your puppy kind of goes into, use that space. You're probably not going to be able to use it very long when your puppy gets too big, but that's okay because we're just using it to teach. All we want to do is understand the concept of retreat means take 1, 2, 3, or 4 steps backwards. Maxwell, here. And don't be afraid to get accidental. Retreat. Now I didn't ask for that one. I didn't throw a treat back there, but retreat, and I still give him the reward. In this case, I'm just giving him a little bit of affection. Retreat. So don't be afraid if there are other places and situations where you know your dog will go in and come backwards. All you're doing is clicking for that step backwards. We'll do it one more time. Retreat. Maxwell, here. Sit. Okay, we've switched dogs. I'm going to show you a different technique on how you can teach your dog to back up. When I was doing this with Max, and it's very common, Max kept on laying down when I did it with this technique. It's not always that every dog is going to lay down, but some dogs do better with one technique versus the other, so we always like to have at least two different options. So if we're going to do this one, we're also going to use the clicker, we're also going to use the treats. What we want the dog to do is be standing, and we're going to move the treat, we're going to put it in front of his nose, and then go down, retreat. So you're going to go down and between his legs. And as soon as he takes that first step, retreat. Now first it's just one step. So you want to do this, until you get consistently, he goes retreat, backwards right away. Then eventually we want to go to two steps like this. 1, 2, retreat. 1, 2, 3, retreat. Now you'd like the dog to go linearly. So like in one direction, not kind of in a curve. You saw Quest was kind of curving away. You can get away with that, but I just find it's a little bit easier if you can get the dog to just go straight. Now, one last little thing is if you don't have a cabinet or something like this where you can practice this, you can use the little Tupperware things like this. So this is not super long or super big, and this is for the first technique, this is some dogs don't want to go down that dark alley. It just looks scary. And if that's the case, then you can use just something like this. You make it not quite as deep. It's a little bit easier. So Quest goes back there. Retreat. So the problem with this one is you only get 1 or 2 steps, but if your dog won't go down a long channel like I showed you in the first way of doing this, find a box or something small where you can just do this for one step. After they do it 2 or 3, 10 times, most dogs are pretty comfortable and they're happy to go in there. Well, it's my buddy Max, and this is some tips and tricks you can use if you want to teach your dog how to back up, or what we like to call the retreat command.